The Sermon at Benares. This is a chapter which we are going to do today. This is written by Betty Renshaw. If we summarize the chapter, we can find that the whole chapter is divided into 4 parts. The first part speaks of Gautam's early life, and it is followed by Gautam feels sufferings of the world. The third part, which we can see in the chapter, like Gautama seeks enlightenment. And finally, we come across a portion of the chapter where the story of Kisa Gautami has been mentioned. So these are the 4 parts wherein the chapter, like how the chapter is divided into. So we're going to follow now the content. So Gautam Buddha, born 563 BC to 483 BC, he began life as a prince named Siddhartha Gautama in northern India. At 12, he was sent away for schooling in the Hindu sacred scriptures, and 4 years later, he returned home to marry a princess. So after spending his time in the Gurukul or the ashram, which was prevalent in those days, so he came back and he married a princess, and they had this family life for 10 years. He also had a son, and at about the age of 25, the prince, heretofore shielded from the sufferings of the world, while out hunting, chanced upon a sick man, then an aged man, then a funeral procession, and finally a monk begging for alms. So, if we go through the content of this particular page, we find that like the sightings that he had seen, like he saw firstly a sick man, then an aged man, then a funeral procession, and finally a monk begging for alms. So all these they just mirrored the bitter reality of life, and he was so moved that he at once went out into the world to seek enlightenment concerning the sorrows he had witnessed. He wanted to gain knowledge. He wanted to have a state of high spiritual knowledge. And for 7 years, he wandered. Wandered means he went from place to place without any kind of aim, and he wandered, and then finally he sat down under a peepal tree where he vowed to stay until enlightenment came. So after 7 days he was enlightened, and he named that particular tree, that particular peepal tree, as the Bodhi tree, and he began to teach and to share his new understandings. At the point he became known as the Buddha preached his first sermon at the city of Benares. Now, what is the meaning of sermon? So, sermon is a kind of religious or moral talk which is generally given by some holy men, some priests. So, they do give sermons, and this happened at the city of Benares, most holy of the dipping places on the river Ganges, and it happens to be the oldest city of the world also. And that sermon has been preserved and is given here. So, whatever we are going to read are the excerpts, are the parts, are the pieces of the sermon that he had given on that particular day. So, it reflects the Buddha's wisdom about one inscrutable kind of suffering. Inscrutable means something which cannot be understood. So, now the story which Buddha had like the sermon, like the story of Kisa Gautami has been mentioned over here, and it's mentioned like Kisa Gautami had had an only son, only one son she had got, and he also died. In her grief, she carried the dead child to all her neighbors, asking them for medicine, and the people said she had lost her senses. the boy is dead. So this is a very common thing. Like if a person, if there's a death, the dead person cannot be alive. So what this mother did in grief was she went from place to place. She went to the neighbors. She asked for a medicine. So people said that she has gone mad. Now, after some time, Kisawatmi met a man who replied to her request. So this man is supposedly a very wise person who knew that Gautam Buddha must be having some kind of solution to the problem. So he said, I cannot give the medicine for thy child, but I know a physician who can. Physician means a medical practitioner, and he would be helping you. So the girl said, pray tell me, sir, who is it? So here you can see that a little bit of um, like olden English has been used over here. Pray tell me means please tell me, who is it? And the man replied, go to Sakyamuni, the Buddha. So Sakyamuni is another name for the Buddha. So this man, he sent Kisa Gautami to Gautam Buddha. Now, Kisa Gautami prepared means went to the Buddha and cried, Lord and Master, give me the medicine that will cure my boy. So this lady, this girl is not accepting the reality. She's not accepting the fact that the boy is dead and he will not be alive with the help of any kind of medicine. Now, the Buddha was a wise person and he answered him. He told him that no lecture or no sermon would solve the purpose because the girl is not going to understand through any kind of conversation. So he told him to get a handful of mustard seed, and when the girl in her joy promised to procure means to get it, to supply it, the Buddha added, mustard seed must be taken from a house where no one had lost a child, husband, parent, or friend. So this is a condition that he had put forth. He knew that there would be no such kind of family where death has not occurred. Poor Kisa Gautami now went from house to house, and people pitied her and said, here is a mustard seed, take it. But when she asked, but now the condition that she had put in front of the people, she said, did a son or a daughter or a father or mother die in your family? They answered her, alas, the living are few, but the dead are many. Do not remind us of our deepest grief. So for in like wherever she went, all the people like they replied in this manner only. Please don't remind us of that kind of grief. And there was no house, but some beloved one had died in it. So she couldn't find any such house where nobody had died. Now Tessa Gautami, she had become very weary and hopeless. She was really tired and exhausted, and she did not have any hope and sat down at the wayside watching the lights of the city as they flickered up and were extinguished again. So she could see that it was already the night had approached, and she could see that all the lights were flickering and they were no more to be seen. At last, the darkness of the night reigned everywhere. So now, this is the philosophy that we can relate to, like how birth takes place, watching the lights. Lights means birth, and the darkness. Darkness is depicted over here by death. So this is a kind of symbolism that has been mentioned here. So, and she considered the fate of men that their lives flicker up and extinguished again. And she thought to herself, how selfish am I in my grief? Death is common to all, yet in this valley of desolation, there is a path that leads him to immortality who has suffered all selfishness. So she like considered this, like she considered herself to be a very selfish person, because if her son could get life anyhow by any medicine, then why not the other people who die? So she considered herself to be very selfish. She realized the fact that she was asking for something which is not like ready to be given to her. That now the Buddha said, the life of mortals in this world is trouble and grief and combined with pain. So now Gautam Buddha explains that if a person has taken birth in this world, the kind of uh, like the life will be brief and it would be combined with pain. For there is not any means by which those that have been born can avoid dying. So if a person has taken birth, he is surely to die. Some may die young, some may die old, some may die very old. So of such nature are living beings. As ripe fruits are early in danger of falling, so mortals when born are always in danger of death. So there is again a metaphorical language used over here. Like ripe fruits, they fall when they are very ripe, and so do human beings when um, like they suffer pain or they are not well, they die. As all earthen vessels made by the potter end in being broken, so is the life of mortals, both young and adult. Both those who are fools and those who are wise all fall in the power of death, irrespective of the fact. If a person is fool, he is going to die. If a person is wise, he is going to die. If a person is young and adult, age does not matter. A person can die young, a person can die old. Of those who overcome by death, depart from life. A father cannot save his son, nor kinsmen their relations mark, while relatives are looking on and lamenting deeply. One by one, mortals are carried off, like an ox that is led to the slaughter. So we can see that there is a lot of imagery, there is a lot of metaphors that have been used here. A lot of symbolism is there to just to differentiate between life and death. So the world is afflicted with death and decay, therefore the wise do not grieve, knowing the terms of the world, not from weeping nor from grieving with anyone obtain peace of mind. On the contrary, his pain will be the greater and his body will suffer. He will make himself sick and pale, yet the dead are not saved by his lamentation. It is possible that a person may lament, may cry, but a person who is dead always, and he has left this world. He will not come. The soul will never come in that particular body again. If a body has lost the body will be called a dead body, and that person will not be alive again. He who seeks peace should draw out the arrow of lamentation and complaint and grief. He who has drawn out the arrow and has become composed will obtain peace of mind. He who has overcome all sorrow will become free from sorrow and be blessed. So again, there is a lot of imagery which you can see. There's a lot of metaphorical value, like usage of metaphorical language has been used over here. So you can see that how this the arrow which has been um, spoke about here is that arrow is a symbol for grief. So one has to take out that arrow of himself, and he has to draw out the arrow. And therefore, if a person draws out that arrow, he will become composed, he will become relaxed, and will obtain peace of mind. He who has overcome all sorrow will become free from sorrow and be blessed. So this is a wonderful story which has been written by Betty Renshaw. So actually, this is an article which has been written by her, and it was in the year 1975. Thank you.